The observation deck of Kelthera Station overlooked the frozen plains of Epsilon Savon, where crystalline snow fell in perfect geometric patterns, a natural phenomenon unique to worlds with triple moons. Wendy pressed her gloved hand against the reinforced glass, watching the Velthian colonists move through the courtyard below with their characteristic grace, their pale blue skin shimmering against the white landscape. Beautiful, aren't they? Cornelius appeared beside her, 2 steaming cups in his hands. He offered her some earth coffee he'd been hoarding since their arrival 3 months ago. Beautiful and cold, Wendy replied, accepting the drink gratefully. And I don't just mean the weather. Cornelius nodded, understanding immediately. The Velthians were an advanced species, their technologies centuries beyond humanity's. Their colony on Epsilon 7 was a masterpiece of efficiency and design. But in the weeks since the human delegation had arrived, Wendy had noticed something troubling about their society, a clinical detachment that permeated every interaction. The Velthians operated on pure logic, on calculations of resource allocation and communal benefit. Emotion, they'd explained politely, was a vestigial trait they'd evolved beyond millennia ago. Another supply run today? Wendy asked. Yeah. The hydroponics bay needs new filters. Cornelius sipped his coffee, grimacing at the temperature. Want to come along? Might be nice to get out of this tower for a bit. Before Wendy could answer, a commotion below caught her attention. A small figure, Velthian child, no more than 7 or 8 in human years, stumbled through the courtyard. Even from this distance, Wendy could see something was wrong. The child's movements were erratic, uncoordinated. Her skin, normally a healthy azure, had taken on a greyish pallor. Cornelius, look. The child collapsed. For a moment, nothing happened. Velthian adults continued their purposeful movements through the courtyard, stepping around the fallen child as if she were merely an obstacle in their path. One paused, tilted their head in what might have been consideration, then continued on. What the hell? Cornelius's cup clattered to the floor. Why isn't anyone but Wendy was already moving, sprinting toward the exit? Cornelius was right behind her, his longer stride quickly catching up as they raced down the corridor. The station's climate control couldn't prepare them for the shock of Epsilon 7's atmosphere -40 degrees Celsius. The air so cold it felt like inhaling knives. Wendy didn't slow down. Her boots crunched through the crystalline snow as she ran, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Behind her, she heard Cornelius shouting something, but the wind carried his words away. The child lay motionless in the center of the courtyard, snow already beginning to accumulate on her small form. Up close, Wendy could see the telltale signs of Velthian fever, the subcutaneous bioluminescence that normally glowed beneath. Their skin had gone dark in patches, a clear indication of systemic failure. Don't touch her. A Velthian administrator approached, their voice carrying that peculiar musical quality of their species. The child is experiencing Heathral syndrome. Her contribution coefficient has fallen below viable parameters. Wendy stared at the alien in disbelief. She's dying. Yes, it is unfortunate, but not unexpected. Her genetic markers indicated a 73% probability of developing this condition. Resources are better allocated elsewhere. She's a child. Wendy's voice cracked as she dropped to her knees beside the girl. The child's eyes fluttered open, deep purple, filled with confusion and pain. Cornelius arrived, slightly out of breath, carrying their emergency medical kit. Wendy, we can't. The diplomatic protocols. Screw the protocols. Wendy was already activating the kit's bioscanner. The device, designed for human physiology, struggled with the alien readings, but the essentials were clear enough. Severe infection, multiple organ systems failing, body temperature dropping rapidly. The human treatment methods are incompatible with Velthian physiology, the administrator stated flatly. Your intervention is illogical. Maybe. Wendy pulled out a thermal blanket, wrapping it around the shivering child. But we're going to try anyway. Cornelius was already on his communicator, contacting Dr. Sarah Chen back at the human quarters. Sarah, we need you in the central courtyard now. Velthian child, looks like septic shock or something similar. Bring everything. More Velthians had gathered, watching with curiosity but no urgency. To them, this was simply the natural order the weak filtered out. Resources preserved for those with higher probability of long-term contribution. It was logical. It was efficient. It was monstrous. The child whispered something in Velthian, her voice barely audible. Wendy's translator implants struggled with the dialect, but the meaning came through. Cold, so cold. I know, sweetie. I know. Wendy pulled the child closer, sharing her body heat despite the warning klaxons going off in her suit about dangerous heat loss. We're going to help you. Dr. Chen arrived within minutes, followed by 2 more members of the human delegation. The Velthian administrators watched with what might have been fascination as the humans worked frantically checking vitals, administering broad-spectrum antibiotics modified on the fly for alien biochemistry, setting up a portable heater to stabilize the child's core temperature. This is inefficient, one Velthian observed. The expenditure of resources for a 12% probability of recovery. Humanity didn't claw its way up from the caves by abandoning our young. Cornelius shot back, his hands steady as he held an IV line. We survived because we were stubborn, irrational, and refused to accept that some lives aren't worth fighting for. Hours passed. The snow continued to fall in its geometric precision. The Velthians eventually dispersed, returning to their calculated routines, but the humans remained. A small cluster of warmth and desperate hope in the frozen courtyard, and slowly, impossibly, the child's bioluminescence began to flicker back to life. By the time Epsilon 7's 3 moons rose above the horizon, the child was stable, weak, but stable. Wendy sat in the snow, exhausted, watching as the girl's parents finally arrive, summoned not by their own society's alerts, but by the human delegation's insistence. The Velthian mother looked down at her daughter with an expression. That might have been confusion. We were informed of her status change. We did not expect ... intervention. She's your daughter, Wendy said quietly. Yes, but the probability calculations, sometimes, Cornelius interrupted. The most important things can't be calculated. The Velthian parents looked at each other, then at their daughter, then at the humans who had refused to look away. Something shifted in their expressions, something that hadn't been there before, something that looked almost like wonder. Later that night, back in the observation deck, Wendy and Cornelius stood together, watching the colony below. The child was recovering in the human medical bay, her parents keeping vigil beside her, deviation from protocol that was sending ripples through the entire Velthian community. Think we just started a revolution? Cornelius asked. Wendy smiled, tired but content. Maybe, or maybe we just reminded them of something they forgot they had. Illogical, Cornelius said, mimicking the Velthian administrators. Completely, Wendy agreed. But that's what makes us human. The snow continued to fall, each flake perfect and calculated. But somewhere in the colony below, a child lived who shouldn't have saved, not by logic or efficiency, but by the stubborn, irrational, beautiful refusal to look away. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.